The Ryan and Ryan Power Hour podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to Ryan and Ryan here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky.
All right, we just did the Washington Nationals starting off with the NL East, so now we're continuing with the East and the New York Mets. They're supposed to have a much improved season from last year, and they do have a pretty good pitching staff.
Yep, and it was better until Zach Wheeler needed Tommy John surgery.
Right, that's the thing.
Just like my fantasy pitching staff.
Because now they have Bartolo Colon sort of filling in. I mean, he's still doing pretty good.
He's still good. I was shocked that they named him the opening day starter. I thought they would have given that to Matt Harvey.
Yeah, I thought Harvey is definitely deserving of it. Although, maybe that's a lot of pressure for someone who didn't pitch at all in 2014, but I don't know. And they have Jacob deGrom, who is on my fantasy team.
Yeah, I think that he pitched better last year than he's not as good as he pitched last year, because if you look at his stats in the minors, he wasn't striking guys out the way he was.
Did he win the NL Cy Young?
He did.
Yeah, he did, because Kershaw won MVP, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think he wasn't striking guys out like that in the minors. So I mean, I think the strikeouts will go down. I think he's still a pretty good pitcher.
Yeah, he's technically like my third or fourth best pitcher. So,
in my rotation,
sort of
he might be at the back end.
Yeah, I think you have a better rotation than me. That's for sure.
A better rotation than everybody, probably.
Later on in the show, we'll go over some of our fantasy teams for the upcoming season. Jonathan Neese is the number 4 guy. Dylan Gee is number 5, and then of course Zach Wheeler, unfortunately, is having Tommy John surgery.
And right after Wheeler tore his UCL, G said he wanted to pitch out of the bullpen this year, so that with Wheeler starting, he didn't want to have to start because Wheeler's done for the year.
Right. Their bullpen looks like this. Mejia is their closer. He's pretty good.
Henry Mejia.
Yep, and they also have Familia, which is family in Spanish.
They have quite a few names in that bullpen.
They have Torres, Bobby Parnell, who is going to be back in May, it looks like. I
believe he had Tommy John surgery last year.
Yes, following Tommy John surgery. Other than that, they're the team that got Jeremy Blevins.
Belvins, yeah, and then they traded for Alex Torres, too, from the Padres.
Yes, they do. They have Torres on their team. They actually have 2 Torreses. They have Carlos Torres and Alex Torres. So there you go.
Not many white guys in that bullpen.
No, I don't.
Besides Belvins, I mean, not being
besides
racist.
Bobby Parnell and Belvins, I don't think there is.
I mean, they're good together. They're still pretty good guys. I mean, I know they've usually have issues with their bullpen.
Right.
And I mean, they could improve with call up some guys mid-season if they move G back when they call up Noah Syndergaard.
Right. This team isn't nearly as bad as it will be, as it was last year.
Right.
So.
If David Wright hits 260 with 8 home runs again, then it might be bad.
Right. And they're going to need an improved year from Curtis Granderson too. He hasn't been very good.
Yeah, I mean, he hit 21 home runs except batting .220, and I know that they moved the fences in, and they said if the fences were in that spot last year, Granderson would have had an additional 9 home runs.
Right. Their catcher is Travis
d'Arnaud. He was one of the big pieces in the R.A. Dickey trade. He was the number 2 prospect in all of baseball at one point, and he obviously hasn't lived up to those expectations.
No, he hasn't. And their backup is Recker, so he's an okay
Anthony
backup.
Recker?
Yeah.
I remember when he was with the Cubs, I remember I liked his name, and then I was watching, and then he hit a home run. I was like, oh, this guy's not that bad. And then in the offseason, he was claimed off of waivers by the Athletics, who then traded him to the Mets.
And third base, of course, David Wright. He's been there forever.
Right, yep, and he will be there forever. He's still got 7 years left on his 8-year deal.
Wilmer Flores is the shortstop for the Mets.
Yeah, I think not acquiring a shortstop in the offseason is going to haunt them. I mean, that's just a hunch.
Yeah.
Wilmer Flores is not that good.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel Murphy, the second baseman.
He's been around a long time, too.
Yes, he has. And And first base is Lucas Duda, who's been there a few years.
Yeah, he had a good year last year, 30 home runs. I know he's kind of a late bloomer. I think he's like 28 or 29 right now, so I mean it took him a while to develop. I don't think he'll hit 30 home runs again. I mean I think 25 is reasonable for him.
Yeah. Michael Kadire, he's the new left fielder for the Mets.
Yeah, they signed him to a 2-year, signed the 37-year-old to a 2-year deal, and they only had to sacrifice their first-round pick, which was the 14th overall pick, to sign him.
And it looks like they also have John Mayberry Jr. He'll be
he's a
backing
solid,
up in left and right.
He's a good backup outfielder. He's got power. And Michael Kadire and David Wright are really good friends and really good clubhouse guys, so that might be another reasoning behind that signing, because I don't know why you'd want to sacrifice your first-round pick when it's the 14th overall pick.
Right. Juan Lagares, the center fielder for the Mets.
He just got a new 4-year, $23 million extension.
And a guy that was starting on their team, but now it looks like he won't be starting, Kirk Neuenhuis. He'll be backing up Lagares in the outfield there.
I think Mets fans are happy he's no longer starting.
Right. I remember, I think it was 2013, Carlos Marmol was still with the Cubs, and it was against the Mets, and the Cubs were winning, and Kurt Neuenhuis had like a walk-off 3-run homer or something.
I think it might have been a grand slam.
I think it was like on Father's Day, 2013. It was either a grand slam or a 3-run homer. It was something like that, and the Cubs blew that game. Yeah.
I remember watching that one.
Yeah, it was like a Sunday afternoon game.
I think it was 2012. I think Theo got rid of Marmol in 2012.
Yeah, I mean either way, it was definitely upsetting.
Yeah, Marmol did that too much. And with Juan Lagares, I didn't think he was good enough to get a 4-year, $23 million extension, did you?
I know he's really fast, isn't he?
Yeah, he's fast. I didn't think he was like a good enough all-around player to want to go and commit 4 years
I
to
feel
him.
like they should have seen more from him before they gave him that deal.
Yeah, unless they felt like he was going to hit like 300 this year, and then he would have commanded Angel Pagan money.
Right, and then, of course, right field, Curtis Granderson. So
yeah, year 2 of his 4-year deal. He'll probably hit some more home runs this year since they moved in the fences where his power alley is, because, I mean, that is kind of frustrating if you're him when you find out they moved the fences in and you would have had an additional 9 home runs.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we're moving on from the Mets to a team that is also supposed to be much improved. They have a pretty darn good team, but I don't know if they'll be able to beat the Nationals.
Is this by any chance the Marlins?
This is the Miami Marlins.
And in the Marlins case, they are a really good team. They will be much improved. I just think it's a year, because they have so many young guys, I think it might just be a year too early for them to be like as good as they could be. And also throw in the fact that next year, Jose Fernandez will be back to being Jose Fernandez.
Yeah, I think if you get Fernandez back, or if you get Fernandez back to start 2016, you'll definitely be in much better shape.
Right, and throwing the fact that all these young guys, Marcell Ozuna, Christian Yelich, who just got a 7-year, $50 million extension, will all be a year more groomed into the league. I mean, and Andy Echeverria, if he's still the starting shortstop.
Yeah,
Who's
looks
tremendous
like he will
defensively.
Be, so. Their rotation looks like Henderson Alvarez is their number 1 guy right now. Matt Latos, you got Kohler, Dan Herron, Cosart, who came from the Astros
last year in the Colin Moran and Jake Marisnick trade.
And the bullpen looks like Chiswick is their closer.
Yeah, they've been dangling him for a while. Also throwing the fact that rotation will look better when Fernandez comes back. I mean, on paper it will look better. I don't know if it'll be too much better with him coming back from Tommy John surgery.
Other than that, I don't think their bullpen really looks too good.
They traded Dan Jennings to the White Sox for Andre Rienzo, which to me made almost no sense because Jennings had a good ERA last year. However, he was one of those lefties where he'd be a one batter and then you take him out kind of player.
They've got A.J. Ramos, who I have not heard of.
He's okay.
Mike Dunn.
Oh, he's a pretty solid bullpen pitcher.
They have David Phelps, who's a pretty solid option as well. And they have Brad Hand. So that sort of is what their bullpen looks like.
I think he started a few games last year. I mean, also throw in the fact that they traded someone in the bullpen.
I'm not sure who they
offseason.
traded. I haven't been following
It's
the
not
Marlins.
Dan Jennings. Yeah, I forget who it was. They made another pretty big trade. Oh, well, I don't remember. The guy wasn't that important.
Speaking of new people on the Marlins, they have a new catcher, a new first baseman, a new third baseman.
Is Saltalamacchia not the catcher anymore?
No, he is. But I mean,
the backup.
Yeah, you have Saltalamacchia, Mathis
Jeff
is backing
Mathis.
up. Yeah, so Saltalamacchia, man, he's.
I think this is the final year of his 3-year contract.
It could be. Martin Prado is the third baseman. He's still around.
Right. This was the trade. They acquired Martin Prado for hard-throwing Nathan Eovaldi, who was in the rotation last year and did pretty good.
That's right. He's he's no longer
hard
with them.
thrower. Yeah, it throws in the mid to high 90s. They're able to get a veteran and utility player like Martin Prado in return.
And as we said, the shortstop is Echeverria.
Third base is Michael Morse, I believe.
First base Morse.
First base Morse.
Second base D. Gordon.
That's right. They got D. Gordon
from the Dodgers.
From the Dodgers, they traded their top prospect Andrew Heaney in that deal, which the Dodgers coincidentally immediately flipped Heaney to the Angels for Howie Kendrick.
Right. Christian Yelich.
Wait, who's the third baseman?
Third base is Prado.
Oh, Prado's third base. I thought he was second.
No, second is Gordon. Third base is Prado, and Echeverria short.
So
Morris first.
Yeah, that's really not too much of. That might be an upgrade over Casey McGee because last year McGee only hit 4 home runs, and Prado's a guy that can hit 10.
Right. Center field, they have Ozuna. So
Ozuna's in center, not Yelich.
Right. It says Yelich in left, and of course I think they have Ichiro Suzuki too.
Yeah, they do as the backup. And they have some guy I've never heard of in right field. I think his last name is Stanton.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd never heard of him.
I think he only signed the biggest contract ever in baseball history.
Giancarlo Stanton? I don't know.
Only got a 13-year, $325 million contract extension. Yeah, tremendous power if he can stay healthy. So I mean they've got a pretty solid young team. I just think they need another year of grooming. Obviously, when Fernandez comes back, that team will, and he's back to being Fernandez next season, they'll look a lot better and could challenge the Nationals because of all the guys that the Nationals could lose in free agency.
Yes, they could. Moving on to the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves have a lot of people, at least on their depth chart on their site, they have a lot of people who could possibly be in their rotation.
Yeah,
Wow.
After they fired general manager Frank Wren and John Hart took over, they made quite a lot of moves, and I read their farm system moved from number 15 into like the top 10, which I mean might be number 6 or 7. Which they acquired a lot of young talent, which they traded a former top prospect in Tommy La Stella to the Cubs for Arodys Vizcaíno, who was a former Braves top prospect before they traded him to the Cubs, and the Cubs flipped him back, and now he's been suspended 80 games. Which I think the Cubs now won that deal.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, Stella looks like he's going to be a really good player.
I think so. So hopefully
he's showing on the scouting report was that he had little to no power, and he has 3 home runs this spring. So maybe we can get a couple home runs out of him this season.
Right. Their number 1 guy is Julio Teheran,
who's a solid option. I remember when the Cubs made the Vizcaíno trade, he was their top prospect. Teheran was the top prospect of the Braves at that time.
They have Alex Wood, Shelby Miller,
they got in. They traded Jason Hayward. They made a lot of moves, and they got Tyrell Jenkins in that trade, who's a top pitching prospect.
Mike Minor is out right now. It says he may start on the DL, may not. As far as this, he probably will, I'm assuming. And Wandy Rodriguez,
who they actually just released Wandy today.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they did.
So other possibilities for their rotation. They have 2 good possibilities: Eric Stoltz and Trevor Cahill.
Oh, they just traded for Trevor Cahill is going to be in the rotation. They just traded for him yesterday.
All right, so he will probably be that 4th or 5th guy.
Yeah, he's making $12 million, and the Braves are paying $5.5 of that salary.
It's really not bad.
No,
it's not a bad rotation by any means.
No, it's not. I mean, I don't think they really traded any. They didn't really. All these lost was Irvin Santana.
I'm a little confused here in center field. It looks like B.J. Upton is going by a different name.
Melvin Upton Jr.
Is that right? I did not hear this.
That
or know
is
about
right.
this. Melvin Upton. Okay. I still thought it was BJ. I didn't know. Either way, he's bad. So
Yeah, he is bad. And I think starting in left field